which is really awesome. Hello, everybody, and hola for the Spanish speakers. Maybe we'll start
Eh,
Spanish later on.
hola, estoy aprendiendo español,
Oh, there you go.
pero
See?
mi español es malo,
Oh
muy
my
malo.
gosh, that sounds amazing. That sounds great.
Está el tiempo por Pathfinder en español.
Do you know how to say Pathfinder in Spanish?
No. Teach
Yeah,
me.
no, I don't even know. It has a really long name that I forgot. I forgot what it is, but maybe somebody could throw it.
Yeah, ¿cómo se dice to teach? Yo sé enseñar, or
Yeah,
enseñar or
yeah.
enseñar is to learn.
Enseñar. Yeah.
Enseñar, okay, pero to teach is
Teach is enseñar.
oh,
Learn is aprender.
aprender. Oh yeah, see, because I just said I'm learning because I just I've practiced a few phrases that I just spit right out. But okay, por favor, puede enseñarme español hoy.
Yeah, there you go.
Sí,
We'll try
okay.
it.
Muchas gracias. Well, mi esposa es de Venezuela.
Ah, that's why. That's
Yeah. See, and by the way, we both live in Los Angeles. More people speak Spanish in LA than speak English.
Is that right?
Did you know that?
I didn't know. I didn't even know that, but I can definitely see it. I
Yeah.
can definitely see it.
Well, it's because there's so many people that speak Spanish and they speak English. And then there are a lot of people that speak English, and some of them, like me, speak like half Spanish. I could do, maybe some Spanglish, I guess. But
Okay.
it's funny because I've met Latinos. I've met Latin citizens here that grew up here and don't speak Spanish. They can pronounce it, but they're embarrassed to say it's like, no, yeah, I can't speak Spanish.
Well, I remember when I first came to the States to California,
Mhm.
long time ago, and I was looking at the streets. Then they were named in Spanish.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, what's going on
Sepulveda.
here?
Yeah, I know.
Yes, all of these, and I was like, cool. I don't have to learn English, I guess.
Yeah.
But then that wasn't the case.
Depends. I don't know. If you move to Van Nuys, you probably don't need much English. You
That's
could probably
true.
get around just fine in Van
A
Nuys,
lot of Spanish.
Panorama City. Yeah. And it's funny because Van Nuys is a Dutch name, but it's like that's the one town you go to where it's like it's all Spanish here, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and one of them, saludos desde Chihuahua, México. Usil Soto, bienvenidos. Yeah.
A todas las personas que hablan español, saludos a todos desde
Sí,
California.
saludos. Adelante, adelante, amigos.
Adelante, bienvenidos.
Bienvenidos
We
y...
can bust out the Spanish. every now
Yeah.
and then.
Estamos aquí, Moy y yo.
Maybe you'll do some Spanish Pathfinder later on.
Yeah, I understand that the Spanish language Pathfinder is pretty good. I haven't heard
Oh,
it.
yeah?
So, yeah,
I
I
haven't
don't know.
heard it either.
I have no idea.
I
All
actually
right.
don't even know if you can switch the language in the game, or if you have to be in a specific region.
I think you have to go to I don't even know. I've never tried it. You know what? That should be a special stream where we just go to we just spin a globe and say, okay,
yeah.
Brazil. Because,
Because
all right.
there are a few Spanish people that I follow,
Right.
and their game is in Spanish.
Hey,
It's trippy
thanks
to
for the
hear it in
follow.
Spanish.
Uh-huh.
So I was thinking maybe I could switch it on mine, but I guess I can't.
Yeah. I have played with a few people on like sub Fridays or follower Fridays. Like this Friday, I do a follower Friday. Usually every Friday I play with subs, and then some people were followers and they miss being able to jump in. So the first Friday of every month, I jump in with followers, and occasionally I get somebody whose Spanish is just better than their English, and I will lamely attempt to keep up. And so I'm trying to learn in-game phrases in Spanish to help out. I mean, I know, izquierda, derecho,
Hey,
derecha,
thanks for the follow.
sígame. But I don't know how to say, zip line. I don't know how to say incoming, or there's a squad over there. It's just, hey, gente allá. Gente malos allá.
See, that's the reason why we developed the ping system.
Yeah.
If you're out of
Hey, thanks
words,
for the
just
follow.
ping.
Exactly. So, yeah, hey, I tell you what, everybody on the stream, not just Spanish, but that speaks another language, throw it out. Tell us where you are and what you speak. So, yeah, Jake Meister, Chris, I live in LA too. Maybe you've killed me before. Jake Meister, the odds are much, much better that you've killed
Hey,
me.
thanks for
Okay?
the follow.
I actually
So-
feel that you're like Apex Predator level.
Yeah,
skill.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what you heard?
You must carry your followers, right?
Oh yeah, that clearly Was that comment you heard dripping with sarcasm when they said it? Because, but let's put it this way. I got my brother, who's also an animator and graphic designer, to animate a potato with a flat cap on it for me, because that's what I am. The slang for my skill level is potato. No good. Yeah.
La papa?
Yeah, and yeah, sí. Sí. Soy la papa aquí.
Soy la papa?
Sí. Yeah, sí. Estoy listo para, ¿cómo se dice to lead? To lead a party of people.
Well, in this case, let's see.
Yeah. La papa estoy lista.
Estoy listo para dirigir.
Para
dirigir.
Dirigir? Okay, see, I can roll my R's. Estoy listo. No. La papa estoy lista para dirigir.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I have to sound it like, we always had this debate. Would Pathfinder, if he spoke perfect Spanish, would he still have his American accent, or would he magically pronounce everything perfectly? I almost think Pathfinder would have like that lame American accent of a guy who can speak it, but he does not pronounce at all.
Yeah, technically, I think because he's a robot, I think he would speak it perfectly. But I think we would all like to hear the Americanized accent.
The Americanized Pathfinder. Hola!
Exactly, yeah.
Thanks for the follow. Estoy aquí. La papa estoy lista para dirigir. He would still roll the R, yeah.
I love it.
All right.
You say you do that on Fridays?
Yeah, I do follower and sub Fridays. So, yeah, if you want to drop back in and say hello, the stream's always welcome to you, sir. Always welcome to hear you guys jump in, and it's like, hey, what's up? You know.
Yeah, every now and then I jump on some streams whenever I have a little bit of time, or when I'm doing something like super tedious and I just need something fun to have as a background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some fun gameplays, some fun YouTube channels or streams that I just throw in the back and do my little animation. But yeah, I'll definitely stop by whenever I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good question to start with too. Now you're responsible for a lot of the animation in Apex, but the experience I've had as a voice actor learning about animation, I've learned some through the process of voice acting because they love to take you through the stages of what they're doing. And my brother being an animator who was also sort of mentored by a Disney lead animator back in like late 90s, early aughts. And also, I've monkeyed around with a couple of very rudimentary animation programs that you could get like through Apple. And so I understand that one person can animate quite a bit on their own. But when you get to a project of this size, you typically need the lead animators, the guys who do keyframes. They really establish the look, the personality, the movement, the flow. And you need a lot of in-betweeners, a team of people to fill in a lot of the gaps. What is the process like for animating in Apex, and where are you on that chain?
Well, it's tricky. It's tricky because a lot of the stuff that you're describing, I think some of it is still used mostly in like feature film animation, where you do have the main animators. This used to be more of a practice back in the old 2D.
Yeah, 2D days. Yeah.
Where they would have a very, very precise animators to do the keys, and then the in-betweeners, which was kind of like I guess a lower tier animator, but yeah. I mean they did a lot of work.
Everybody starts there.
Everybody starts there, of course. The thing is now with 3D, you do have leads, you do have supervisors, but a lot of the animators just pull their own weight throughout production. Now, this varies from studio to studio, especially when you cycle back to gaming. The way that we do it at Respawn, actually, the animators have a lot. We have a lot of creative. What would you say?
Creative license ownership. Okay.
We have a lot of ownership of our characters, of our project, of our task. So when you're tasked with something, you do deliver it from conception to final. Okay. So it's not like somebody else is gonna come and do the cool stuff. You do the cool stuff yourself, or you do some of the tedious stuff yourself. You build it from the beginning to completion.
Wow.
Which is which is cool because in other companies that I've been in, you would do only the animation side, only do the craft perfectly executed, and then you send it off.
Mm-hmm.
But here, being a first party developer, you actually have to technically put it into the game and test it, and nobody's going to do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a little bit of an onboarding shock for a lot of animators that all they want to do is animate, and
Mm-hmm.
then somebody else do the hard part, which is to plug it into the game and test it. But
Okay.
here at Respawn, there's very little to no hand holding. So you're giving a task, you gotta take it all the way to testing. So
Wow.
it's a
So
little daunting. It's a little daunting, but it's when you see it out in the wild, it makes you feel more like, wow, that's a little piece of myself that I was able to put into the game.
absolutely, because it isn't. Disney would do this, and I'm sure Pixar, and I'm sure a lot of production houses do this. They kind of refer to their animators as actors because
Yeah.
the voice actor has to give a performance, and there is acting going on, of course, but the animator is in charge of everything visual, and it isn't just hitting one pose and delivering a line. There's so much
My gosh.
that you
A lot.
can transmit through a movement, and when you time that movement and the pace of it, how much of that do you feel like is directed by them, and how much of it comes from you?
Well, actually, Apex is a really good example of this. When we were developing Apex, we'd never heard the voices for a long, long time.
Uh-huh.
We developed especially for the base characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think up to maybe Bangalore. So I want to say like the first five or six.
Okay.
We heard the voices very late,
All right.
and so we developed the personalities as unique as we could, and as different and as good as we were able to.
Mm-hmm.
And then later down the road, when we would get the voice, we did come across a few that were like, "Oh my gosh, that is definitely not what I imagined." Especially a good example of that is Wraith.
Okay.
Um, Wraith has actually been probably my favorite character to animate from Apex,
Mm-hmm.
and I took a lot of her animations, and the way that I picture her in my mind is that she was like a very feisty, angry, sort of intense,
Mm-hmm.
intense person. And I imagine that her voice would be like, oh, like super intense. I don't know. And and then when Chantel's voice came, it was seriously shocking for me because
Mm-hmm.
she's calm. She's calm, and
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, does this animation go? Because I've been animating Raid like super pissed, kind of intense this whole time, and now Chantel is like more mellow. But I think it was that contrast that actually rounded the character better.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can't imagine Wraith a different way. I'm glad that she's not. I think if the voice would have been too intense, I think she might have come across as too one note.
Right.
Whereas with Chantel's voice, it kind of rounded the character a lot more. So that was a happy, happy. I don't want to say accident because it was meant to be. It was
Yeah.
just a happy that it worked out.
Yeah, they sometimes they call that too on the nose, like in
Yeah,
screenwriting and acting. It's like, look, I know the emotion you're feeling is this, but you don't have to give me the exact dialogue that says that. Your performance is delivering this emotion. Let the dialogue be something else because it feels more real. And like you say with Wraith, if she had been all out, gruff and angry and aggressive in her voice and in her movements, then yeah, it's a different character all of a sudden.
yeah, it's a different character. Like I said,
Right.
I can't imagine her a different way now.
Right.
And when we heard Pathfinder, I remember the meeting when we heard Pathfinder, when we heard your voice,
Okay.
and we
Is it
we
too
were
late to recast?
no, 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 no. On the contrary, we were all gathered in a table. The main character team, and they're like Mo, one of our writers.
Mhm.
Um, he said, "Okay, this is the voice for Pathfinder," and so we heard it, and everybody instantly had a big smile on their face and
That's funny.
a big laugh because we're like, "Oh my gosh, this is perfect!" And that's a good sign, when you
Yeah.
when you present something and you get like blank stares all around, you know you're in trouble. But in this case, there was
Yeah.
there were smiles all around, which was great because they were like, oh man, this is gonna be great,
Well,
and
that's good
that
to
helped
hear.
round Pathfinder so much more.
Yeah, I remember the audition was, and I've talked about this before in some of the other interviews you might have seen, that it was just one of several pieces of copy I had for the day because that's the life of a voice actor. They send you auditions, you knock them out, you email them back in, and then you go on with your day. And I just sent it off, and I looked at the breakdown, I looked at the description of the character, and I thought, okay, I had done something sort of like Pathfinder earlier that year for a movie called Passengers. And it's with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence. And I play the Infomat. And the Infomat is not exactly Pathfinder, but he's happy. He's me. I mean, Pathfinder's me, and so is the Infomat. And at the end of when he's talking to somebody, he's just this AI concierge on a spaceship. He just says, happy to help. So he is Pathfinder with maybe half a Quaalude in him. He's just a little bit more chill. Whereas Pathfinder, there's no holding him back.
Right. It's hype.
When somebody says we want an AI that's very friendly and very energetic, I just take my voice and I just amp it up because AI tends to not sound. AI tends to sound very friendly and reassuring. That's why it's designed that way. So that's all Pathfinder is that times 10. And then when I did the callback for Eric and a lot of the other guys there, it was just more of that. It was a really fun experience. We all seemed to be on the same page as far as how we were going to voice him.
Did you get a ton of direction on how to play him, or they just let you go?
There was a little bit of both. I think whatever direction they were planning on giving me, I was kind of already there. So it wasn't like I immediately knew the character. It was just, I think whatever ideas they had, it was pretty easy to slot me into them. So they gave me suggestions, but it was, I don't recall us ever trying anything that didn't work because we kind of stayed right with what I did from the beginning. So I get the feeling, I mean, I don't know this for sure. I know that there were design concepts for Pathfinder that looked different. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you must have been there for those. And he looked a little different.
Design concepts for every character that makes them look extraordinarily different.
Yeah.
Super different.
And at some point, that's a good way to jump off on this. You've been involved with, have you been involved with every one of the characters? Or are there some that you tend to spend more time on and there are other animators that work on the others? Or are you basically in charge of the animation?
Well, it depends. Like when we started, going back to the production of Apex, when we started working on Apex, at the time there was only 3 animators working to support Apex, and that's very little for a game of this size.
Right.
Thankfully, later on, we were able to hire some really amazing animators that help us ship, and a few more that have come on after launch.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, at the time, back when it was only 3 of us, we had to. There was no hiding. I mean, we had to touch every character because there was nobody else that would do it. So I would say we all got around the same amount. I gravitated more towards characters that were more a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more fast paced. So I did most of the stuff for Wraith. I did a lot of stuff for Wraith. I did a lot of the stuff for Octane and Pathfinder actually.
Okay.
But nowadays it's a lot more organized. There's a lot more animators, and everybody has gravitated towards a certain slice of each legend.
Mm-hmm.
So some people like to do more of the lobby animation, or I like to do the character select, and I like to do finishers as well. Skydive and modes are awesome. So everybody gets to touch a little part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I would say I spent a lot of time on Wraith, Pathfinder, Octane, and for some reason I liked animating Caustic too.
Oh, really?
Even though he's the opposite of dynamic, I like to
Yeah, there's very little movement with
there's
him.
very little movement. There's very
Yeah.
little movement. But I think that's part of it too. Is going back to what we were talking about with Chantel. If every single character just moved all the time,
Right.
then it would start to lose the variety, and then it would
Yeah.
start to water down the characters that do move a lot.
Right.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of Watson too. That's another character that I've spent probably after Wraith is Watson, the one that I've animated probably on the most.
Okay. Now, as far as the animation goes, you do use performance capture, correct? Okay.
We do motion capture, not performance because the face is hand keyed.
Okay. Is it?
We do motion capture for the body
All right.
and as a base.
Okay. So now explain hand keying when you're talking about the face. Like I've done performance capture for a Respawn game. I'm not allowed to talk about it because it hasn't been officially announced yet, et cetera, et cetera. But for that, they have a rig and they have a light that captures basically a camera at the end and it captures your face. So we're not using dots all over our face. And so there are other productions that do that. But when it comes to animating off of performance capture versus motion capture, what would be the difference from an animator's perspective?
Well, the biggest difference is that when you get performance capture, you're getting the actor and you're getting the mannerisms from the body, and you're
Right.
also getting the facial expression.
Okay.
And if you're doing it on a sound stage, then you're also getting the voice.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting the full package, right?
Right.
Now, from there, if you were to plug that directly into the game, um, it wouldn't look so good because
Mm-hmm.
it would look really floaty and just not finished.
Right.
So the motion capture tech artists have to spend a lot of time making sure that the performance is actually coming through into the rig,
Mm-hmm.
and then do all the setup. Then once the animator actually gets it, then that's when the animator does all of the fine tuning of the facial, making sure that something that looks weird in live action might look weird in the engine. So you need to do all those little adjustments to the face and stuff. Now that's with performance capture. If you're doing motion capture, there's no head rig, right? So we're capturing the body,
Mm-hmm.
and then once we get it into our computers, then it's the animator that needs to do not only the body polishing, but needs to do the hand key, which hand key means like going there and animating it by hand,
Mm-hmm.
all the facial expressions.
Okay.
And there's plenty of animations in our game that are done completely by hand,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of it that is done with motion capture and hand key. So there's nothing in the game that's straight up motion capture,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some animations that are straight up hand key, but it's usually a combination of both.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Cristallo, my mod here, is saying the notifications are tied to Streamlabs, not Stream Elements. Oh, you're hearing notifications? All right. Let me see if I can shut these things down.
You're too popular. You're too famous with your notification.
Yeah, I guess. No, I love that people are following and subbing and all that stuff. It's just later on while we're doing this talk, and you're going to hear, hey, thanks for the follow underneath. Like just Pathfinder just poking at you. I disabled all the alerts, so perhaps you won't be hearing them now. Actually, what I'm curious about too is when did you start with Respawn and how did you get into animation to begin with? Did it start as a kid and then take us through your life as a budding young artist and then take us through you walking through the doors of Respawn for the first time?
I think I've always been into creative stuff. Not necessarily animation, because when I was a kid, I was doing mostly little pictures here and there on the corners of my notebooks at school,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually got into a lot of clay figurine modeling, and that was kind of fun. I don't know if I was any good at it. My mom said I was good at it, but who knows?
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was fun, and I can say that I'm not a super good, like I don't draw super great. I mean, I
Okay.
guess I draw decent, but I like to draw. I like to sketch.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice from my cartoons, that's why they're so stylized. Is because that's it, right? I can't draw better than that.
That's
So it's not yeah, they're stylized because it looks cool, but also because that's the maximum that I can do as well. So yeah, when I was a kid, I used to draw all the time. My mom actually really was super supportive all the time about this. I would draw a lot of Pokemon stuff and a
mm-hmm.
lot of old Nintendo and Metroid stuff. So that's actually come through in my cartoons even nowadays. I've always been just influenced by either video games or movies. Um, just draw here and there. And it wasn't until I was a teenager that I started to get into animation.
Okay.
Um, with the program that I actually use now to do my cartoons online. At the time, it was called Flash. Now it's called Animate.
Okay.
And super simple 2D animations. But I remember the first animation that I did. And I think I'll post it one of these days on. I still have it. One of these days I'll post it on Twitter. But it was a super simple animation of a. It was a circle. It was either a blue circle or a red circle,
Mm-hmm.
and it would animate across the screen, and it would turn into a square. It
Okay.
was either a blue circle that would turn into a red square or a red circle that would turn into a blue square. I can't remember. And that's it. That was the moment of like a light bulb just went in my head. And when I saw that circle turn into a square, I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, I can do anything!" Right? A little naive me. But I was like, "Man, that is so cool." And that was the turning point. From that little simple crappy animation,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I think this is what I want to do for a living. Now, my mom, of course, she wanted me to be a doctor, a dentist actually. So she didn't take on the news super jumping for joy to go from a dentist to some weird epiphany that I had as a kid.
Right.
But she was super incredibly supportive, incredibly supportive.
Okay.
And I just expanded more and more on my animation. I just really like it. It's not something that I do just because it's a job. I love animating. I
Mm-hmm.
think about animation. I dream it. I live it. And being able to work in a game like Apex now, it's just the cherry on the icing. If that's the
Yeah.
phrase. Cherry on
Well,
the
the icing on well,
the
yeah,
icing on
the
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 cake.
cherry on top, the icing on the
I'm, I'm,
cake.
I'm learning
Sure.
English. I'm learning English. This
Oh
is
yeah.
hard. It's hard stuff.
Yeah, estás aprendiendo.
Estoy
Ten
aprendiendo inglés.
paciencia,
Yeah,
per
be
favor.
patient. Be patient.
Well, when I was a kid, because my brother always drew better than I did, but I was always, trying to keep up. And I would, like you, I would always draw and sketch things. And I wasn't that great, but one thing I fell in love with was taking my textbooks in class and
Oh
taking the
yeah.
corner of the pages. And
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
everyone's done this. And you just draw these stick figures. And when you just thumb through the pages fast enough, you see animation frames and you create these little things. And of course, if you're a kid, it's a guy with a lightsaber or a guy chopping another guy's head off, and it's all stick figures.
For
And
sure.
that was the limit because I'm older. I grew up in the 70s. You didn't have a home animation kit.
Yeah.
You just had to do all of it by hand. But once I discovered a computer program where I could do something rudimentary, I did something that reminded me of what you talked about. I animated mugs, coffee mugs, because all you needed was the mug and the handle, and that's it. And I just put a mouth on it. So I still have them. I've played them once or twice, and I think one of them is actually on my YouTube channel. And that's all I could do. But by then, I was already a working voice actor, so I thought, who cares if the animation's any good? The voices are gonna
The voice
rule.
what counts.
The
Yeah.
voice will make up for it. But my brother, on the other hand, taught himself all these computer programs too, and so I soon realized that, you know what, I'm gonna let him do the animation. I'll just do the voice. And
How
it's
does he
like
like it?
he loves to animate. He's like you. He loves to create things. Like he creates the graphics for my channel, and he said, I love doing these things. You can give me all the work you want doing this stuff, because he loves creating the characters. He'll model them. And once they're rendered and modeled, he said, now that's the hard part. So I can, animate it
He
to whatever you
models
want me
them
to
too.
do. Yeah, he does. My brother Dave is actually a guy who is great at anything artistic. He can draw anything and make it look like a photograph. He can sculpt. He can learn. He can teach himself computer animation. He's always done all of that stuff.
Amazing.
And yeah, it's his calling. And so on our YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, we have this series of cartoons we did, just little animated shorts called Happy Hour. Because I said, this is before Apex came along, I said, we should create something. What is the easiest thing for you to animate? And he said, something with no arms and no legs. And of course, yeah. And I said, well, how about glasses at a bar? And he goes, yeah, I'll just fill them up with liquid. We put mouths on them and they just turn towards each other and bend a little bit. And so we created these little shorts called Happy Hour, and nobody ever watches them. But he was able to do anywhere from 1 to 2 minutes of animation in about 2 weeks, which is pretty fast, but it was very labor intensive for him. And he doesn't have the resources that Respawn, is able to give you. So
yeah, animation is a very super time consuming process.
Yes.
You spend a lot of time into something, and out comes maybe a second or two.
Right.
Or 3 or 4 if you're lucky, right? But
right.
It's super tedious and labor intensive. So that's my advice: is if you want to go into this, you gotta love it. Because if you do it just because it's a job, man, there's easier jobs for sure.
Yeah.
They're not as tedious.
Yes. Well, speaking of which, then, how did you get the job at Respawn? What animation jobs led up to that?
Yeah. So before I was at Respawn, I was in another studio called Blur. I don't know if you've heard of Blur. They do a lot of really high-end trailers and promotional materials for movies or mostly for games. Back in the day when we were doing still E3, it's canceled now, or it's canceled this year. But they would do a lot of the E3 big commercials, big promotional stuff. So super high-end animation stuff. And I was there for a little while, and it was a really good experience. Before that, I was actually working at PlayStation. Working away on Uncharted 4. I don't know if you're familiar with that game at all.
Well, yeah, Nolan North is one of my good buddies, so you probably got to meet Nolan at some point in the process, I would think.
I did get to meet him, and I had to memorize his mannerisms so that I could portray them on Drake.
Yeah, Nolan moves a lot.
He does. He moves a lot.
He's got a lot of energy.
And at the time, like we were talking about with him, they do performance capture. So they are capturing his face.
Right.
So I would see the character of Drake, and I would see his face on half of the screen. So for like 6 months, I would have Nolan North's face plastered on my screen, memorizing all of his mannerisms, and he does a lot of eyebrow stuff.
Yes.
And I had to put all of that into the character. So yeah, I am very familiar with Mr. Nolan North for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was working on Uncharted, then Blur, and then I applied to Respawn. At the time, they were working on Titanfall 2, and they were starting to get into the cinematics for Titanfall 2. So when I applied for them, it was just like a perfect timing. I always say to get a job in this industry, you need talent, of course, but you need lots of luck. And by that I mean the timing needs to be good. The opportunity needs to meet the talent, right?
Yeah.
So at the time they were looking for cinematics because that's where Titanfall 2 was going. So I applied and I did my test, and not too long after that I started at Respawn, and I was thrown into a cinematic piece on day one. So there wasn't much training. It was more like, dude, we need to get this game done by this date. Right. This is where we're at. So get going.
And that seems to be every game ever is, look, guys, it's crunch time, and it always seems to be crunch time. There's always a lot they're trying to cram into a little bit of space.
And the thing about Respawn is they are actually, I can honestly say, they are we are extremely careful with crunch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can speak to my experience only, but they are super careful to never crunch us.
That's
Now,
good.
at the time of Titanfall 2, we were coming into a little bit of a crunch because
Mm-hmm.
we just had to get the game out, and there was a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I jumped in. I was busy from day one to release.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a slow moment, or there was never I wonder what I'll do today type of situation. It was like
Right.
getting to me, and that happened in 2016, 2000, either 2016 or 2015. I think 2016.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, I've been at Respawn for about 4 years, a little bit over 4 years now. It's been
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's been
Now, I was struck by the comment you made where you like to spend a lot of time on the finishers, the finishing moves. And
yeah,
it is funny because a lot of the character's personality comes through on those finishing moves. They are unique to that character.
yeah. Well, we try to make them as unique as we can.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually one of the most rewarding animations to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also one of the most expensive ones to do because they require all disciplines, and they have to be in sync with
Mm-hmm.
another character.
Mm-hmm.
So they're technically not cheap to make. They're actually fairly expensive. They take a long time,
Mm-hmm.
resources, but um, when you actually perform the finisher and you can actually pull it off,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty rewarding.
It's very satisfying
It's very
because,
satisfying.
well, a lot of your animation too, it has to be uh, like animation for a feature or a short or any piece of regular content that just has a linear narrative that is not interactive has to serve the story, has to serve the character. But in addition to you guys having to do that, because this game isn't just an FPS where people jump in and shoot at each other, there are backstories at
Yeah,
play. So you also have to keep that in mind, but you also need to serve gameplay. And I guess it's something that you keep in mind is, I'm animating this finisher, but I'm doing it also because when somebody executes it, it's going to give them this emotional release because it's frustrating trying to kill somebody. They've got their shield up and you're thinking, I'm just wasting ammo right now. I'm going to the
exactly.
finisher. And you
Yeah,
know that when you're giving them that finisher, it's this crescendo of this little slice of action.
it's a big gamble, right? Because it does leave you exposed.
Yeah.
So you gotta know when to execute them. Um, but if that's why I said if you pull it off, then it's really satisfying.
I'm doing an internet speed test right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's a little slower at the moment. It could be that sometimes my kids are using their iPads around the house. All right, come on and say hey real quick. This is a boy who needs a haircut right now.
Hey, how's it going?
This is what happens when the barber is closed for.
He's 6. Is that what you said?
Now he's 8.
8. 8.
8. He's on a break from his class, so yeah. Are you chewing gum?
Oh, he looks so cute.
Yeah, he's just cute like his mama. All right, you want to do your Pathfinder impression for everybody real quick?
Sure. Who's ready to fly on a zip line? I am.
Wow, that's great.
There you go. All right, big boy. Let Dad get back to work. You got to go have yourself some lunch, okay?
No.
The acorn did not fall far from the tree there. Yeah.
Kids are cute, huh? They're a lot of work. They're a lot of
Yes.
work.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, I started late, okay? My wife is 51, and I will be 51 in August. And so we have a 6 and an 8-year-old. So that tells you how late we started. But I'm actually glad because I would not have had the patience when I was younger to be the kind of dad that I really need to be. So
I'm living that. I'm living that myself. Because you know what? I honestly thought I was going to be more patient, but I discovered that I'm not as patient as I thought I was. It's
well,
getting better. I think I've gotten a lot more. My kids, they're the ones that have to be patient with me. And
I do the same
they're
thing.
wonderful.
Yes, I ask them too. I say, be patient with Dad because he's working on it. He's working on being loving and patient and kind, because the mistake we make is, like, I was single until I was, I married my wife when I was 40, and before I turned 41. And I met her when I was 38. I knew her for about a year and a half, almost 2 years before we actually tied the knot. That's a long time of getting your way. When you are single and you live by yourself, this is a long time of you just doing things the way you want to do them, when you want to do them. And then you get married and there's some compromise, but then you have kids and all of that stuff goes right out the door.
Absolutely.
So your routines that used to guard your sanity, your routines that kept you in balance, those are gone. And kids disrupt that. They don't mean to, but they can't help it. They're kids.
Yeah, I guess the longer you wait to have kids, I suppose the more disruptive it is.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know, but
I've found
you're also more established, and you're also more
sage. Yeah.
You're also
A
more
little
sage.
wiser. Yeah. I've got more to teach them now. That's for sure. Like 30-year-old Chris. Oh my God. Those kids would have been in therapy. So,
Right.
I don't know. They may still have to go, but 50-year-old Chris keeps himself just in enough shape to be able to be as active as 30-year-old Chris would have been. And I know how to count to 10. I know how to hold my temper. I know how to use the right tone of voice now. It's taken some practice. There were a lot of test runs up until now. But yeah, I've also noticed that, and your kids are at this age too. They'll play with each other, right? Can they occupy each other now?
They do. They do
Okay.
now. They do.
Oh, that helps.
As my kids have grown up,
Uh-huh.
I have I can say that it's gone a little bit easier for sure. Like it's just a lot more fun now. In
Right.
the early days when it's when they're just a little sausage with a diaper,
Yeah.
it's not as fun as it sounds, right?
Right.
Now that they have their personalities and they play with each other and they
Right.
give love back.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's great, but it did take like 5 years to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at the beginning, they just demand, and now they're wonderful because now they can give back, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. They have personalities. They have points of view.
They have personality.
They have
It's crazy.
opinions.
Really crazy. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Has it changed your art? From, based on having kids, has it changed your approach to your art? Has it changed the kind of art you want to create? Has it changed the way you look at art now? It certainly has so for me. I mean, a job is a job, and I will always do the job. But I get a thrill out of watching things once again with my kids, but seeing it for the first time. And I realize that some of the art that I'm putting out into the world, my vocal performances, are being consumed by them. And sometimes they're going to watch what I've done and look at me differently. So it's on my mind when I'm creating it. I don't know if that's the same for you.
I think that's absolutely the case.
Mm-hmm.
It has made me, I suppose, more sentimental, and
Definitely me.
it has increased certain sensibilities that I have to be aware of
Mm-hmm.
how this impacts not only adults but kids as well. And it's just a crazy source of inspiration. There are things that, as an animator, every animator will tell you, you spend a lot of your time observing life,
Right.
because you're trying to recreate life, right?
Mm-hmm.
As accurately as you can. So there are little things that kids do naturally that it would be much more difficult for me to come up with.
Right.
They just do it naturally, so they're like an endless well of reference
Mm-hmm.
or little cute things or little innocent stuff that they just do naturally. And if you can plug in some of that stuff into your work, then more power to you. I've actually drawn a lot from my kids, especially for my channel, for my cartoons that I do.
Tooncraft.
There's
right?
a lot of things that they've inspired me to plug into that kind of stuff. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what are you working on right now that we could sort of look forward to that's maybe not Apex related? Is there something you're doing just for yourself that you're creating for your channel?
Well, the most recent thing that I'm doing is that I finally got around to drawing Bloodhound.
Okay.
It takes me forever. I don't think people realize how long it takes me to draw these characters. The animation part is actually fairly fast because that's actually what I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the drawing part that takes me a little while. So I'm finally coming around to drawing Bloodhound, and I will have Bloodhound in one of my videos in the future if I can get the time to work on it.
Okay.
And maybe another character that I haven't drawn yet, but I don't want to spoil the surprise of that.
Now, what was it about Bloodhound that made you approach Bloodhound later than the other characters as far as drawing it?
Nothing really. Honestly, when I put my demo together and I posted it online,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I hadn't worked on Bloodhound almost at all.
Okay.
Not even actually the animation that just came out for the character select where they do the charge rifle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first animation that I worked on Bloodhound since the beginning. So he's or they've probably been the character that I've worked on the least for some
Okay.
reason. I don't know why. One of our animation director, he does like to animate birds. He's a big bird fan.
Really?
So when Bloodhound has the raven,
Uh-huh.
you know, our animation director said, "I want to animate that." So he grabbed most of Bloodhound's animations, but it was never a big deal. I mean, I think the character is absolutely amazing. I just never did much animation with Bloodhound, and now with my cartoons, again, I gravitated to the same legends. I gravitated to just like in Apex, I gravitated to Octane and to Pathfinder and to Wraith
Mm-hmm.
for no particular reason. Just that's just the characters that I gravitated the most, and I am super excited that I'm now finally working on Bloodhound because it's an awesome legend, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's turning out really cute. Hopefully, I can do a fun little story with them,
Right.
and hopefully people like it because oh my gosh, my comment section has been just bombarded with why do you hate Bloodhound? Why do you hate Bangalore? Why do you hate Gibraltar? Because these are the three characters that I haven't drawn yet, and it's not for any other reason other than they do take time.
Right.
And I never create any asset unless there's a purpose for it. And
Right.
since I haven't had a story with them, that's it. I just haven't drawn them, but I don't like them less than the other legends.
Mm-hmm.
It just hasn't happened.
Okay.
It's an
So
honest, simple answer, but people love to speculate deeper meanings. There's no deeper meaning.
people have a lot of time on their hands, and so they don't always give us the benefit of the doubt. People will take whatever content you put out there and imagine, some people will, they will imagine that that is your entire take on the subject. That, no, this is an evolving thing. This is part one. You know, I do have a life and I can't put it all in one video. It's going to evolve as I add to it, and sooner or later you will have a larger picture of it. So yeah, Moy doesn't have any Bloodhound in any of his previous tunes because he was getting around to drawing them.
It really is. It really is
yeah.
as simple as that. It really is as simple as that.
Well, people will ask me.
When they come out, it will be hopefully worth it.
Right.
I want it to be worth it.
A lot of people make the assumption that I have a preference for Xbox and I hate PC and I hate PS4. And look, it's no simpler than this. When I was doing voices for video games a lot more often back 10, 15 years ago, and I was single, I would get an Xbox because that was the last console I had before I moved out on my own. And I thought, fine, I'll just get another one of those so I could play the game I did a voice in to grade my performance and see if I like it. Then we had kids, and we thought, let's upgrade the one console we already have so they can play games. And then I started streaming, and I thought, I don't know if I want to start adding other consoles because I don't think I can keep up with all that tech. So people think, why don't you like PC? It's like, I don't not like PC. I haven't used one in 20 years. I would probably set it on fire by accident. I don't know anything. Why don't you like PS4? I like it fine. I just don't have one right now. I don't have space.
I know. I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Every now and then I post some gameplay on my YouTube channel, and I do say every now and then because it takes me a while to get something good.
Yeah.
Because I'm not super great at the game. I'm decent, I guess.
I guarantee you're better than me. I'll go ahead and make that prediction.
Maybe. I don't know.
What console are you on?
PlayStation.
Okay, see, we could have squatted up, but you're on PS4. PS4.
And that's the thing is, I do play PlayStation. I've actually owned every PlayStation system.
Okay.
And I've never owned an Xbox, but not because of. And that's another thing that people throw in my comments is how come you're always showing PlayStation footage? It's not for any other reason than I just never bought an Xbox, and now most of my friends and most of my stuff is on PlayStation. So, see, I'm wearing my PlayStation hat. So, but it's not because I don't like Xbox. I mean, that's the last thing. In fact, we develop using the Xbox pad, the gamepad.
Oh, really?
So, I actually it's likely that I prefer the gamepad more than the PlayStation one, just because I'm more used to it.
Right.
But at home, I do play PlayStation, so I don't know. There's really no conspiracy. There's nothing to it. That's just how things are.
Exactly.
But people do like to go into these like really deep. Why? I guess it's more fun to think about that way, but it's really super simple.
I think this is something people should be aware of. It's like this with a lot of art that you see out there. And I like to think of anything that is an expression of someone's creative impulse as art. It could be performance art. It could be them drawing. It could be them doing a song. Whatever it is, it's all art because it's a creative self-expression. But sometimes art is utilitarian. It's functional because that's all they could manage with the resources they had. If you ever see El Mariachi, Robert Rodriguez, which...
Of course I've seen that movie, yeah.
Yeah, if anyone sees that movie, it's a pretty good movie. He had a budget of $8,000.
Exactly,
okay?
That's the point.
And I think he made the movie in like 93, 92, and he said, I didn't have any money. We had one camera. I wanted to do a steady cam where you wouldn't see anything move. I didn't have a steady cam. That's like a $40,000 rig. But we rented a wheelchair from a hospital. I sat in the wheelchair and I held the camera. Hey, we had a steady cam.
There you go.
So people say, why did you shoot it with such long takes? Or why did you do this or that? He's like, that's all I could do.
Yeah.
That's all I could manage. And he made art out of it. He made some really good art out of it. And then when he got a budget, he did more stuff he wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, you do what you can with the resources that you have.
Exactly.
Right? Hopefully, as time passes, you get more and more stuff, and you can produce higher quality content. But
right,
you are limited by the resources that you have. I think that applies to anyone and to any company.
Right. Yeah, like when I do my stream, I'm using everything I have. My brother is an animator. Boom. Okay. Would you like to make animations for my stream? That's why I have them, because my brother can do them. If my brother wasn't with me, you wouldn't see any animations on my stream.
Right.
Or it'd be little stick figures walking across. It wouldn't quite be as compelling.
That exact same thing happens to me. When I do my cartoons at home,
mm-hmm.
That's it, right? That's the whole team. The whole team is me. But my kids and my wife, they serve as my QA, as I like to call it.
Right.
Because they're the ones that get to see it. They're the ones that get to give me feedback on it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're laughing, or if they're finding it cute, or if they're completely lost, that's it. That's the resources that I have.
Right.
So I go by what they say, what they're feeling, and that's my little team of QA before it goes out into the wild and
mm-hmm.
people can see it and either like it or not.
Right. Well, what is your process like now that you're working from home? Because, or I don't know, that there is a pandemic. We're on lockdown out here in California, like most places, which is the smart thing to do. Have they been able to create a viable workspace for you there, or is it all being done from home?
No, absolutely. Right now, everything is being done remotely.
Okay.
There are some people that are in the building, but it's
Hmm.
mostly IT, just
Okay.
supporting. They're the heroes. They're the heroes that
Yeah.
are supporting the rest of the team.
Right.
But they are, and I'm sure that they have all kinds of new procedures
Hmm.
to be able to accommodate that. But yeah, we are working from home, and EA and Respawn have actually been super supportive in just this new situation because
Right.
I guess and now kids are out of school too,
Yeah.
plus working from home. It's just not the same. The situation is just not the same, and they're super understanding, and
Hmm.
we're gonna do our best. We're gonna do our very best, but needless to say, yeah, it is different. It is different, but I have all the resources that I need. I was able to bring my computer home and get my workstation here, really good internet, and we have a lot of Zoom meetings. Zoom has now become the new normal.
That's what we're doing. We're zooming right now.
We're doing right now, right? So
Hmm.
everything is Zoom, and yeah, it's been great. It's been great. No complaints whatsoever.
Has it slowed down the release schedule for anything coming from Apex, or is it still pretty much on schedule?
Well, for the most part, we try to keep everything as we can on schedule. Recently, we did announce that season 4 is getting a 1 week extension.
Okay.
And that's not to say that stuff wasn't ready. It's just that with this new situation, I think what has been impacted the most is likely testing.
Hmm.
We need to do a lot of testing.
All right.
So we just want to make sure that when we do release something, it is as stable as possible because there's
Hmm.
nothing that's worse than something that you're excited about and it doesn't come out quite as you wanted it to, or it's broken or something doesn't work.
Hmm.
And it is the testing is probably the thing that has gotten the biggest hit in our QA. My gosh, bless those guys. They are heroes. And but again, with the new situation, it's just crazy. There's everything is a little bit slower for sure.
Yeah.
The level of productivity is impossible to be the same.
Hmm.
But I do think we're trying our best, and I'm extremely excited for season 5. I think it's gonna bring stuff that people are going to hopefully love,
Hmm.
and really exciting stuff.
Now, of course, you mentioned season 5, and we can't mention anything upcoming without once again mentioning that, we can't reveal anything that Respawn has not already signed off on. And so we get asked this all the time. What do you think about this? What's coming? What's this? What's that? And I always have to keep it vague. And I say, look, the stuff you like about the game, there's going to be more of it. You will get more backstory on other characters. I can't tell you which ones, and I can't tell you when, but it's not like they're going to just write a backstory for one or two characters. They're going to deepen the story. And as far as the animation goes, I'm sure it's going to reflect what is happening in the game. So that's about all I can usually promise people is that the things you like about the game, I'm sure you're going to get more of it. And whatever bugs are out there, I'm sure that Respawn is painfully aware of them.
Yeah.
Because we have a very active community, a very vocal community.
Very.
And trust me, it's not like they want there to be server issues. It's not like they want to have bugs in the system. Always doing the best with everything they have.
Yeah. There's with the game being so big, there's bound to be issues.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, the we have a very vocal community. So I get pinged on Twitter or on my YouTube channel quite a bit about things that frankly I can't fix because honestly you don't want an animator fixing your servers. Trust me. But I am able to forward it to people that can do something about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can do stuff that I can control, like animation and stuff.
Right.
When it comes to certain bugs, I don't know. What am I gonna do about that? You wouldn't want an engineer doing your animation.
Right.
You want an animator doing the engineering.
I guess, and I understand the impulse of somebody. If you're talking to someone who is somehow a link to a larger entity that you want to get a message to, you're just thinking, well, I don't want to waste this opportunity. I've got his attention. Do something about SBMM.
Oh,
because I get that too. And that's what I tweeted the other day. Hey,
I saw that.
Yeah, it's like, I'll get right on that. You realize they don't take my suggestions. You realize the only time they ever pay attention to me is when I'm in the recording booth and I'm recording Pathfinder. Every now and then between takes, I'll say, oh, you know what would be cool, guys, if this happened? And they'll just sort of, yeah, it would, wouldn't it? You know, it's like, look, either we've considered that or we're trying it or we tried it and it doesn't work. Trust me. But I can't help it. I've got the same impulse. Hey, what about this? What about this? So, yeah, I understand.
No, and that's the thing is, I get a lot of questions on Twitter or YouTube, and I wish I could answer more.
Right.
But I know that the moment that you answer something, it just sprouts 10 other questions that I definitely can't answer.
Right.
So, I wish I could share more, but it's just not possible.
Right.
And some things that are asked, I frankly don't even know the answers to. That's another thing that has happened, is that because I do work at Respawn, people just assume that I know the answers to everything, including lore, including technical stuff, including balance. I don't know. I mean, I can give you my best guess, or ask the person that might know.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way. And that's another thing that is funny, is that not every developer plays the game as religiously as some of our fans do.
Mm-hmm.
So when they ask, hey, what do you think about this and that? Frankly, sometimes it catches you off guard a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, I do play the game quite a bit, so I'm able to, hold my ground a little bit. But I could think of a few people that if they were asked the same question, they'd be like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I get that sometimes with some of the voice acting jobs I've done that were many years ago. Someone will ask, either online or if I was at a convention, someone would ask about a performance or a piece of lore from the game or the series, and I would, hey, I honestly don't know. And you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want them to think that you don't care, because you do care, but you can't keep all that information together in your head. It's just too hard.
That's why when something comes out, when a new season is announced or a new trailer comes out,
mm-hmm.
Some of the folks are actually pretty active on Twitter, because it's like, I can finally talk about this. It's been so long, and It's been at the top of my tongue, and I can finally talk about it. So it's a big relief.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big like, okay, here's some answers.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Yes.
And then they start asking about, okay, but what about season 6? It's like, we're talking about season 5 right now. We're in season 4.
It will never be enough. It will never be enough. But
that's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, the last thing you want them to say is season 5, awesome. So yeah, don't worry about season 6, guys. You nailed it. You don't need to do any more of these. But we want to. Nah. We get it. That's the what you don't want.
Yeah, for sure. And with Apex being the game that it is, it has really put animation under a magnifying glass.
Oh yeah.
Because sometimes we dare go on Reddit. Some people more than others.
I don't do Reddit anymore.
I delve into Reddit every now and then.
Yeah.
I have been scared off a few times because I do comment on art, specifically on fan art. A few times I commented, hey, this is really cool. And oh my God, I got super roasted. Like, why are you fixing this? You should be working. What the hell are you doing on Reddit?
Are you kidding me?
Oh man, I opened the wrong door. But every now and then I do go and I don't comment as often anymore, but I do read a lot of the posts, and some of the stuff that they say is legitimate, like animation feedback. Like sometimes they do find some stuff that is like, that is on me. I should have caught that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. That's cool. So that's what I mean by we're under a big magnifying glass, because people will find it. You screw something up, or you miss an animation, or you play the character off character. People now will call you on it. And that's kind of cool, because that means that people care for it, right? There's nothing worse than people not caring for your product.
Yeah, I suppose it's how they do it, and a lot of this is a feature of the internet. I had Brian and Amelia Deckart on here a few weeks back, and they have their own stream. They're very popular. Sure. And they told me said, the one thing we have to remember is on the internet, everyone is 12 years old, Yeah. And it's a nice generalization, but it does make the point that when you're 12, you have just as many opinions as when you're 50. You just don't have as much practice with expressing them with a bit of compassion and empathy. You just want something done and you want it done now. And so I will sometimes see a comment and I'll think, you've got to be kidding me. You can't actually mean it that way. And then I realize this, could be somebody that is either literally 12 or emotionally they are still 12. And at this point, to engage at that level would be a mistake, especially, in your case and in mine, we can't really get down in the mud. I mean, we can, but it wouldn't look good.
You can. You absolutely can. But, man, the consequences are horrific. Yeah. And that's another thing is sometimes you do, you know what, honestly, for the most part, I get wonderful comments.
As do I.
In my comment section, there's a lot of people that are super, super loving. But every now and then, there is a stinker here and there that leads to a comment that's just like, it's like, dang, that was harsh. And like you said, you have to just bite it because, talking back is just going to be such a can of worms. It's just not a good place to go to. But like I said, it doesn't happen often at all to me. I'm in a very privileged situation where people are really nice, people are really kind, and I do not take that for granted. I appreciate it. There are other developers in the team that do get a lot more flame. So I'm one of the lucky ones that are just more used to the nicer comments, for sure.
It has, with me, occasionally I will get on at night just to play. Not anonymously, because my gamer tag is TheEdgevoice, and I have this streamcast called that. So if anyone knows of the stream, they'll know that that's me. But it's not, I don't have a very big stream. So I can mostly just go on and play anonymously. I'll have my headset on, but I don't talk to anybody. If somebody talks to me and they're cool, I'll talk to them. But they're not going to figure out that I'm Pathfinder.
Sure.
Just through that one headset connection. But every now and then, you'll get somebody that is just absolutely toxic, like douchebag level toxic in your headset. They don't know who you are. They don't care who you are. I don't know how long they've been playing, but they're just super aggressive. And part of me wants to get into it with them. And then I realize, no, you can never. I mean, my own personal choice is I will never get into it with somebody either on Reddit, on YouTube, on Twitch, on a headset, ever. Just because I'm the one that's got something to lose and they don't. And you can always just choose not to engage or mute them and walk away. But it's hard sometimes because, you're human. You want to defend your work. You want to defend your gameplay. And I imagine with you guys, the level of scrutiny you're under, on Reddit, on YouTube, on all that, on Twitter. Have you ever sort of started to engage and then pull back and said, I'm not going to do it?
Every now and then there are certain topics that do trigger me more towards speaking something back than others. But for the most part, I try to be as neutral as possible and as understanding as I can.
Right.
Because like you said, I am the one that has more to lose than an anonymous person who is going to certainly make a Reddit post out of it and say this developer said this and that, and then I'm gonna get roasted. Yeah. So no, for the most part, I know that it's just a no-go zone to start arguing online. It's not something that I'm gonna do, even though sometimes it's like, but it's just best not to.
Yeah, I think people would do well to remember that these are people creating this art. And I like to remind people, guys, this game is free to play, okay? Now, you're not going to get some of the cool bells and whistles. You won't get that skin or you won't get that heirloom if you don't spend some money. But you can play it for free. Now, Apex prefers that you spend some money because Moy has to get paid. I have to get paid.
Yeah.
So the game doesn't generate revenue unless you spend some money. But it is odd how often people will get upset about something that didn't cost them a dime. I mean, you can get upset for your time, but also nobody's telling you you have to play. So I like if I take my kids to a movie back in the pre-pandemic days, if I take the family out for a movie, and we have a nice movie theater in our neighborhood, it's one of those dine-in movie theaters. If I go all out, I'm going to spend $200 on a day at the movies. If I don't like that movie, I can blame the movie maker, but a lot of times I just think, look, they did the best they could.
Exactly, of course.
Yeah, I can't get that time back. I can't get that money back. But all right, fine. I've been there. I understand it. So I think
with video games, for some reason, I think the kids are just more savvy and they know how to like poke back, right? Exactly. You present a perfect example. When I go to a movie and it sucked, I'm like, whatever. I mean,
yeah.
Or if it was great, it's like, great, that was awesome. But when it comes to gaming, people are just more active, more, I want to say more savvy. I don't know. But they're just like, they will let us know for sure. Well, they will let us know for sure, dude, this sucks, or this is great, or this is, change this. We will definitely know. And for the people that are curious, yes, we definitely know that there are issues.
Yeah.
And it's not a mystery.
Right.
We're trying the best that we can, but not everything can be resolved as fast as the community and us would like.
Right. Well, plus,
that's the reality.
If you see a movie, the movie's done. It's locked. It's in the can, as they say. They can't change that unless you're George Lucas and you like to rewrite your entire first trilogy and say,
it, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, Jabba looks like this now. It's like, can I just have the old one? No, I took all of them and burned them. Yeah. So you have to watch it the way I want. But if you see a movie, that's it. Okay. But if they make a sequel, they'll listen to your notes. But if you're watching, say, a Netflix show or a Hulu or Amazon Prime show where they're going to do more seasons, the fans are going to have some feedback. If you're playing a game is a living, breathing thing. Yeah. That if it's a linear story game, yeah, it's finished. Okay. It's like a movie. But a game like Apex, constant feedback does lead to changes in the game, hopefully for the better. So, yeah, I guess for the fans out there, when you have that much feedback, yes, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but you can also catch more flies with honey. So you don't have to be a douche about it because, trust me, I spend more time thinking about how to connect with people who are nice than I do thinking about how to connect with douchebags. So if you come on my stream and you're a douchebag, the mods will escort you right out. But if you come on my stream and you're cool, you and I will probably eventually have a conversation. You know?
Sure. And the thing is, I don't know if people could imagine, but Respawn definitely doesn't operate in isolation. What I mean by that is when we release something, when we patch something out, people are watching YouTube channels, people are watching Twitch streams, and they are reading posts and they are reading tweets. And if we don't comment on something, that doesn't mean that it's not heard. That just means, holy cow, let's do something about it. It's just better to say, it's better to fix something than to explain why it's broken. You know, let's just get to it. Yeah. Now, if there's something that's really huge that requires an explanation, yes, it'll be an official something. But we are super active with the community. We do listen to them. Sometimes when I see tweets that say, "Oh my gosh, Respawn is listening," I'm just thinking, man, if you only knew, knew that there are screens everywhere in the studio, with streams and with YouTube channels playing 24/7, and if you guys only knew how much we actually do listen, and the fact that the answer doesn't come immediately doesn't mean it's not been heard. It just means it's been worked on. It's just that simple, really.
Yeah, I think here's a good rule of thumb, and I'm sure it applies to video games as well. The most OCD, hyper-controlling director of all time was known to be Stanley Kubrick. So, and Stanley Kubrick has made some really interesting, really amazing films. And he was known for doing countless takes of a scene. He'd have the actors do it over and over and over again. And there was a lot of speculation as to why, but he kind of said, look, I'm just trying to get what I want on the screen. And he was incredibly specific, incredibly detail-oriented. He even, and directors just don't do this anymore, he even would go to different theaters around the country and see how they were advertising the movie. And he would have not only final cut of his films, but he would have a say in how they promoted the films. He would have a say in the poster, everything. He wanted to control every aspect of that. And somebody asked him, how much of what you're trying to accomplish actually gets up on the screen? And he says, when I was starting out, maybe 20 or 30%. Now, and this was at the end of his career, he said, I'm getting maybe half of what's in my head on that screen.
Wow.
As a voice actor, I can get most of what's in my head down on that MP3 or that WAV file if I'm directed properly and if I'm doing my own work, if I'm doing my prep, I can give the performance I need to give. I'm lucky. Actors are lucky. But even then, when I listen later on to what I'm doing, I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe I could have done a little bit better. It just depends on the day. How much of what you have in your head can you actually get down on that screen, on that paper, and be satisfied?
That's a really, really good question. It goes back to the nature of how time-consuming animation is. Animation is just a grueling process of frame by frame, little pixel moving a little finger, do this or that, or the head do this or that. So you need to go in with a plan, pretty detailed. Otherwise, you're gonna sink. So what I mean by that is you need to go in with a pretty clear idea of what you want. Otherwise, you're just gonna end up spinning your wheels, wasting time, and wasting money, which is the worst.
Yeah.
So I would say, by the time you're starting your animation, you're usually you have a pretty clear idea of what you want. So I would say you get pretty close. I guess I can speak to my personal experience. I get most of what I have in mind. Of course, there are some limitations because of the engine, because of the medium, because of whatever. You can't put everything that you want, and not the least of them is the time. I mean, all of us have the exact same timeline, right? The time only moves one way. So you can have a world of ideas, but if you can't execute them in the time that you have, then you're useless, because that's not helpful to anyone if you can't put what you want in a timely fashion for the rest of the team to be able to move forward with your idea.
Right.
So whatever you have in your head, you do have to cater it down to what can I actually deliver that will unlock other people, that will make the players happy, and that will be the best for the game. So I would say I can get a pretty close to what I want from my head to the game, but not always. And it certainly goes with what the task is and how much time I have. But I would say pretty close.
That's good. Well, it's good to hear, because it's frustrating when you have something in your head and you just can't quite reach it. Right. And the product is something that, you're satisfied with, but you're not overjoyed with it. It's something that's can happen to anyone, but it's something that I guess fans of the game, I would hope would keep in mind, that we're all dealing with limitations. And so
and animation is it's a dependency. It's a very dependent animation. It's a very dependent discipline to other disciplines. Like, I can't animate if my character is not modeled or if my character is not rigged. And because your brother sounds like he can do that. I definitely can't do that, especially not at a professional level. Right. So I am depending on other people to do their jobs so that I can do mine. And there's other people down the road, like Eric in audio, who is depending on me to finish my animation so that he can, plug the audio for it. So it's all a chain. And that's what I mean by you need to be able to do your tasks in a timely fashion. Otherwise, you end up becoming the bottleneck, and that sucks.
Right.
Respawn operates super lean, so if you don't carry your own weight, you will you will be noticed immediately that you're like slacking, or that you're like, you're the fly in the soup. So you never want to be in that situation for sure.
Right. Now, is there? I ask this occasionally.
Otherwise, Vince will come over and kick you.
Well, that was the thing about Vince, is that I usually don't get to meet the CEO of the company, of the game that I'm working on. And when I met Vince, I thought, this is just another guy hanging out in the break room.
Right.
And that's his thing. He doesn't walk around in a 3-piece suit. He doesn't walking around issuing edicts and keeping everyone trembling in his wake.
Suit, actually.
Yeah, probably not. He may not own one. So, but yeah, he's just this chill guy in a ball cap. And he's right there on the ground level with everybody else. And so that's also what helps make him very responsive to what's going on in the community. He's not in an ivory tower.
No. Vince is super cool, super cool, and I don't think people realize how laid back and chill he is. He's super down to earth, really funny. Actually, the day that you guys went to the studio, that you were signing posters, he actually, as everybody was signing the posters, he actually came over to mine and drew a mustache on Watson.
Really?
So essentially, he ruined the poster, but it was kind of funny. That's just who he is, right? He's a funny guy. He's a really funny guy, but he's extremely passionate about his team, about us. He's extremely protective, and you want to have a guy like that in charge. Because when the suits start to come over, Vince is our line of defense, and he really does take Respawn extremely serious. He stands up for us, and he's a all around. He's a cool guy. Super down to earth.
Now, are there? We probably kind of covered this, but I'm always curious to know: are there common misconceptions people have about either you or what you do that you would love to be able to address and clear up right here? Or is it something that you think is just always going to persist? People always have the wrong idea about this, about either me or what I do, so I'm just not going to bother with it.
People, I think that I do all of the animation in Apex, and that could not be further from the truth. It is by far a huge team effort. I'm just one animator. We have, how many is it? How many is us? I think either 7 or 8.
Okay.
That are just animation.
And that's not the backgrounds. That's not the environment or anything. No.
That's just pure character animation.
Okay.
And everybody does an incredibly amazing job. All of them. I'm just one more, right? I just happen to also have a YouTube channel that has given me more exposure, and I'm a big fan of the game. I'm a big I do like to interact with the community.
Right.
A lot more of the animators are they're a lot more private. Our animation director, for instance, I don't think he has a Twitter account, but he has a Facebook, and he's a lot more private and stuff. I'm way more outspoken. I do like to interact with the community. So that's one misconception. I definitely don't do all the animation by myself.
Right.
Another misconception is that I don't dislike Bangalore, Gibraltar, or Bloodhound. I love these characters. I love them. I just haven't had much to do with them.
Right.
But I love them just as much as Pathfinder or Wraith. And another misconception is that I am in fact the only person working on Tooncraft, my YouTube channel, because that's a pretty frequent one. Is, hey, tell your team that you guys are doing a good job. There's no team other than me and, like I said, my kids that do some QA.
Right. QA means, by the way,
quality assurance.
Yeah, quality. In other words,
they are my testers. They're my testers.
It's your test audience. It's make sure is that just to make sure that you're not making a mistake with this choice or that choice. Gotcha.
And probably the biggest misconception is that being a developer means that you're playing video games all the time, and that could not be further from the truth. Yes, you do play video games because you have to test them. Right. But testing a game is not that much fun. It's like if you played soccer with a cardboard box. It's just not the same. It's not quite the same as kicking a professional soccer ball. Right. Kicking a square box around.
Right.
You get the sense of the game, but it's just not the same experience playing a broken game.
Yeah.
And we do have to play test a lot, and it's not as fun as hooking up with your friends at night and playing video games
Mm-hmm.
with a fine polished game. Developing them is a work. It's a labor of love and a labor of patience.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that, oh man, it's gonna be real work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say probably those things.
Yeah, for me, I think that if people hear your voice one time in some regional commercial for, a mattress outlet, or they see you on TV one time from something you did 20 or 30 years ago, they think you live in a solid gold house and are driven to
Yes,
every job
yes.
you have. So that, well, you did that thing that one time. Yeah, and that money lasted a week, and then I was unemployed again, like most actors are. So people think that the voice actors got rich off Apex Legends, and I don't know if anyone is technically rich off of this game. I suppose EA has done well with it. I suppose people with Respawn have probably seen some nice remuneration. And I have no problem with what I'm paid to do the game. And I never get into specifics, but people think that if you're a part of this project that goes huge, that, oh, naturally, you must be rich then. And I like to remind them that, remember, I'm a tiny, teensy part. I'm one part of many, many, many parts. And it doesn't mean that all of the acclaim and all the revenue gets showered on one person.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, sure.
yeah, we have to remind people of that you may see our work in a lot of different places, but it doesn't mean that we are suddenly having lunch with Brad Pitt.
Exactly. Absolutely. And honestly, it's just a really fun. Apex has gotten so big that sometimes it's a little surreal that my wife asked me the other day, how do you feel that your animations get seen, millions of times a day?
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you never stop to think about because you work in a little isolation, you do your little animation, you submit it, but then when we get a big release and you see YouTube commentators talking about it, and then it's like, oh wow, that's true. My animation is seen by millions of people, and that's kind of scary and kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
It's both. But just because the game is super huge, like you said, it doesn't mean that everybody all of a sudden is, Carlos Slim or some rich dude.
Yeah.
It doesn't work quite like that. It'd be good. It'd be great.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work quite like that.
Right. Now, this is more of a biographical question because I meant to ask you this, but you live in L.A. I live in L.A. We don't get any more specific than that because we like to keep our privacy. But did you grow up here, or you said you moved here? Now, did you move from another state or from another country?
I moved from Mexico.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I did move from another state, but originally I did move from Mexico. I was born and raised in Mexico, so that's my first language.
Okay.
Represent. Much love to anybody from Mexico in the chat, by the way.
Oh, one of our mods, Frankie Boy, is Frankie, I think you're from Baja, aren't you? Eres de Baja.
Baja California.
Yeah,
That's
Baja or Mexicali, but pero yo creo está Baja. Yeah, he's on here somewhere. Yeah.
I'm actually from Mexico. I was born in Mexico City.
Oh.
So a lot more down south.
International city. Yeah.
International, very big, very, very crowded. It's a little dangerous now from what I hear, but back in the time it was wonderful. And then for college I moved to the States, then to California, and I've been in California for, my gosh, I think like 6 years now.
Okay.
But Mexico originally, and my wife is from Brazil.
All right.
And so there's kind of I'm the youngest one in my family, and there's all kinds of we're an international family for sure.
Yeah,
but we love it here. We love California. It's expensive, super ridiculously expensive. I think whatever, but we do love it here.
Trust me, we can get into that too because people think, oh, you get paid all this money. Yeah, I do well, but If you knew what it costs to
Oh
do
my
things
gosh.
here, if you knew what it costs to have anything here,
Insane.
and I chose a nice neighborhood in LA to live in, so I decided, no, I don't think LA is expensive enough. I want to go to the place where I can. I'm a big neighborhood fan, although during a pandemic where I'm not allowed to go out very much, I'm rethinking that.
Yeah,
Thinking,
yeah, yeah.
maybe I should just put the money into a nice house somewhere out in bumfuck Egypt and not worry about it. But
there's a lot of places that are super super nice,
mhm.
and everything in the states, it changes. Prices change from state to state.
Yeah,
But California is ridiculous. It's expensive. It's really expensive here. The cost of living is absurd, I think. But it is a nice state. There's a lot of really fun things to do here.
yeah. Well, if things got to the point where you did most of your work from home, if you could live anywhere and do exactly the work you're doing now, where would you live? Would you go back to Mexico or would you try a new frontier?
I don't think I would go back to Mexico right now because it's been so many years that I would honestly, even though it's my home country,
Hmm.
I would honestly feel more like a stranger there because I've adapted more to the culture here. This is where I met my wife,
Yeah.
even though she's from another country.
Hmm.
This is the country where we grew up, our formative years. This is where I have my kids. This is the culture that we know, and we love to visit. We love to visit other countries. We love to visit Mexico. We went to France last year. That was beautiful. But I think I would feel I would feel like a stranger in my own town now,
Mm.
which is kind of sad. But we do stick to traveling there, and we do enjoy the food. We do enjoy the food there,
Hmm.
and to travel. But even after maybe a week, I start to feel a little antsy of like, oh, I'm starting to miss home, and
Right.
the States is now home. So
Right. Yeah.
I don't
It's
know. I don't know that I could move back to Mexico. Now, as far as another place to work, as far as another state here,
mhm.
I haven't thought about it too much. If I could do the same that I do now and get paid the same,
Mhm.
maybe go to a cheaper state is not a bad option. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, outside of New York City and San Francisco, it's pretty much all cheaper.
It's
So,
cheaper,
yeah.
right? Yeah, you could buy a nice house there for sure.
Oh, believe me, my brother lives in Austin, Texas, and he tells me what I could
Oh,
buy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what I could buy for what I have here is an absolute compound. People would think I was a drug dealer.
I've had those
Yeah.
conversations before, and I stopped having them because they just bum me out.
Yeah, I know. Well,
No, I know what you mean.
I try to keep it in perspective as well. Like I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, which is literally the other side of the country. It's the other coast. So I could go back and visit Savannah and probably have some fun, but I grew up there. And the things that I value in my life don't tend to happen in Savannah anymore.
Right.
The things that I look for to put in my life happen here. And I do love LA, but yeah, there's so many other cities out there that I think about visiting. And what hurts my wife's heart is that she was born and raised in Caracas, Venezuela. And she always wanted to leave because she always felt more American, but she would love to take us there and show me some of the places where she grew up, show me some of the culture that she did love. She doesn't want anything to do with the country right now because it's a absolute tire fire. But that's what hurts her heart is that she knows we can't go right now. Even if there was no pandemic, she said, we can't go, you know? And even depending on Brazil, depending on what part of Brazil you go to, some parts of it are great. Some parts of it are the Wild West, and you don't want to mess with it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Brazil yet, but I would love to go. I would absolutely love to go.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful culture.
Yeah, I have friends that used to do a lot of business there, and they basically encapsulate it by saying, north of Brazil, where it's out in the country, he said, that's just crazy. Don't bother. Go down to southern Brazil, and it's amazing, you know. But Venezuela, it's a red zone right now for us. There's
You've
no
been
going
there.
there.
When was the last time you were there?
I've never been to Venezuela.
Oh, you haven't? Oh,
No,
wow.
I can't. I mean, no, it's too dangerous.
It's too dangerous.
It's too dangerous. Like if they even suspect that you're not like a fan of what's going on there, they'll find a reason to throw you in jail. So, and we know this because friends of her family have had that happen to them. So,
Wow.
yeah, that ain't propaganda. That's just, yeah, no,
Fact.
Yeah, no, that's fact. Yeah.
Oh,
And as soon as they get out of jail, they figure, how do I get the fuck out of this country? I don't like just being sort of randomly thrown in jail.
right,
You
right,
know.
right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
No, it's bad. It's bad. Yeah,
Sometimes I just get I get caught up in the little bubble of
yeah.
developing this really fast-paced game that I miss out on so many other things that are real and important.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's good to learn.
well, that's why I only stream 4 days a week because I need 3 days a week to recharge. I only stream a couple hours a day usually. But I need time to recharge. I need time to be a good husband, to be a good father, and to be a voice actor who tends to his career. And outside of those three things, I need time to consume life at my pace because your art is influenced by what you take in. What you put out it's like your body. The food you give it is what's going to determine how well you function.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for your art. You can't live in a bubble and create art that is going to reflect reality accurately. It'll reflect your reality, and it might be great art, but it won't reflect reality the way you might intend.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah. So I think we could throw out a few questions from the chat if you want. We could spend a little time answering perhaps a question or two before we let you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna be taking off soon because believe it or not, I do have to work on this game.
Aha! He's got to get on the game.
I gotta actually work, right?
All right. Well, if you got a hard out, all right, we'll do a couple of questions, and let's see. Okay, here's one right here from Kakut. All right, Kakut. I'm just gonna go with that. Yeah, Kakut. Hey Moy, how difficult was it to animate Wraith and her phase shifting, portaling, etc.?
Actually, that's a good question. It goes back to what we were talking about with motion capture. Obviously, that one wasn't motion capture. That was all hand animated. So that puts pretty much all of the pressure and the responsibility on the animator because you can't rely on the data that you would get from motion capture.
Mm-hmm.
But that also makes it a lot more fun because you get to do everything from scratch. So I would say it was difficult for sure. It was difficult, but it was super rewarding, especially when I had to do reference of it myself, and I was in the parking lot of Disneyland when I came up with that idea. So I just started acting it out, and people probably thought I was ridiculous. But when an idea comes, you have to capture it.
You got to roll with it.
Who knows if it'll come back? So I was doing the Wraith stuff in the parking lot of Disneyland, and it must have been so embarrassing. But at the time, I just had to get it out of my head, and now it's in the game, right? So it was difficult, but it was pretty awesome.
Good. Well, here's one from Wild Laser. I know Apex is all the rage now, but will Moy possibly make more Titan tunes or crossover Apex and Titan tunes?
I get asked this question a lot, and the way that I do stuff on my channel is because my time is so limited. I do have to be very careful with what am I going to spend my time on. So I usually do stuff that I play. So right now I'm playing Apex. I'm doing animations about Apex. If I start to pick up more Titanfall stuff, then I'll do more Titanfall stuff. I would like to make a little crossover. I haven't forgotten about Titanfall. I love it. I'm just playing Apex right now, so the ideas for Apex just come more naturally at the moment.
Gotcha. Here's one from Task Draws. How specialized versus generalized are you guys at Respawn? We kind of touched on this. Do you do character animation only, or do you ever animate any of the user interface?
It depends on how big the studio is. Usually dictates what kind of specialties there are. So the smaller the studio is, the more generalist you want to have because you don't have the resources to hire one dude that is going to do one thing. You need people that are going to do a number of things. Now in a place like Respawn, you do get very specialized people. So there's a dude that does the UX. There's a guy that does the modeling. There's a guy that does the animation. So I would say I am very specialized. Actually, I do the animation, I do the character animation, or sometimes animating props. But I only do stuff that has to do with animation. I don't do scripting or textures or anything else. I just do the one thing that I'm good at and that pays for the bills, and that's it. Because if I started to do other stuff, then I couldn't do it at the level that I can do animation. So
Gotcha.
pretty specialized.
Yeah. Here's one from Space Caramel 2. My dream job is an animator. What are some animation tips for someone who wants to get into the animation world in a year or so? So that's their time frame.
In a year,
Or so.
that's fairly quickly. So I would ask where you're at currently, like at what level you're at right now, because that'll dictate a lot of your timeline.
Mhm.
The biggest thing is going to be your demo, especially. I don't know how much experience you have either. Experience will help you a ton. If you have zero experience, then your demo is going to be your sword and shield, and you definitely want to invest as much as you can on that. Always show the best stuff only. It's better to see a demo that's 30 seconds long than 5 minutes of crappy fluff. So just get rid of all the fat. And again, I don't know your experience or where you're at, but get your demo to the very best level that you can.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to grab a high-end job in a year, I would say you gotta move quickly, get a lot of feedback, do a lot of hand key stuff.
Hmm. And that goes for voiceover too, folks. If you've got a 30-second kick-ass demo and a 5-minute demo of a bunch of meh, that believe me, they'll make that choice for you. They won't listen to all of it. And I'm sure they won't watch all of a 5-minute demo. They have things to do. They're looking for something that grabs them, in other words.
Absolutely.
Like, this person has talent. Maybe they're rough around the edges, but perhaps if you get in low enough, they'll say, that's fine. We'll help polish you because you're coming in at a low level, and so we're not risking too much.
And that is very much the case at Respawn. You don't have to be a super duper professional with 20 years of experience. If you're coming out of school,
Mm-hmm.
but you have that spark,
Mhm.
especially if you have good personality,
Mm-hmm.
dude, we'll take you and we'll mold you here.
Mm-hmm.
If you have crappy personality but an amazing reel, no way,
Yeah.
dude. You're out.
Yeah, that
Personality goes a long, long ways. Trust me.
yes.
More than I could have ever imagined.
Mhm.
And I'm the one that will vote no. I don't want to work with this person. Even by the time they get to Respawn, by the time they get to the interview in person,
Mhm.
they pretty much have the job because we know they can do the animation.
Right.
But if they screw up the interview, or if they're a stinker, or if they are just a personality that we know is gonna poison the rest, no,
Mhm.
out.
Yep.
Not a good match.
I will say that too for voiceover. Not that anyone's asking, but it bears repeating. You can be talented, but if you're a jerk, if you're
Oh,
tough
no.
to work with, it is going to put a serious dent in your
Yeah, nobody
employment
wants that.
prospects. Yeah, the days are long in this business, whether it's
Yeah.
animation or it's voiceover or acting. The days are long, and an asshole makes them twice as long.
And
So
you get to see these people. You get to see your coworkers every day for a
Yeah.
long time. So
yeah, they're your
you
second
wanna
family.
surround yourself with good people, dude.
Right.
If you're surrounded with stuck-up people, no way, man.
Yep. Here's one from Frankie Boy, one of my mods. I have a question. Which was the hardest character to animate and why? And by the way, love your work, Moy, and can't wait to see more of Apex in the future. Saludos, compadre, desde Mexicali.
Saludos, and thank you. The hardest character to animate, it's just that hard is a perspective, right? You can do something that's very, very flashy, and that could be hard for some animators, or you can do some stuff that's very subtle, and that could be hard for some animators. I would say um, probably Wraith and Revenant was pretty hard too because we had to rely a lot on hand key and very little on mocap.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then Bangalore is a little bit tough because animators usually tend to be a little bit less military expert in at least in my team,
Right.
and she's very much like very protocol procedural, very military, and that was not my forte, so that was tough for me
Mm-hmm.
because Bangalore is very different to what I know, and
Mhm.
I like to animate stuff that I'm more in tune with. So she presented that challenge for me was Bangalore's personality and the way that she carries herself is so different than what I'm familiar with. So that presented a personal challenge for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there someone had asked this? I can't see which gamer tag asked it, but do you have a favorite piece of animation? Perhaps one that you really couldn't wait to get to, or one that surprised you that it came out looking the way it did? It's just something that really pleased you to have finished. I know all work when you're done with it is satisfying, but is there anything that sticks out in your mind?
Actually, yes, but it hasn't come out yet.
Oh,
It hasn't come out yet, so that is something to look forward to.
yeah.
I do have a lot of favorite pieces that have come out and that have been satisfying. There are some that I wish I would have spent a little bit more time on that I had to move on from. But there is some stuff that is coming out, which is exciting that I can't talk about yet. But in due time, I will mention it. I will be able to confirm it once it does come out.
Gotcha. Yeah, for anyone asking about stuff coming up, we just can't talk about it. So, yeah. Tastraws does have a follow-up. Did you guys already mention what software you use for animation? I'm familiar with Maya, but what other software should I be looking into?
Yes, Maya. Maya is pretty much the industry standard. Most studios will animate with Maya. Now, there are some studios that have their own proprietary software, and at that point, you just have to rely on your animation chops and get familiar with the software.
Right.
But Maya is a really, really, really great one to get your feet wet. That'll very likely be able to translate well in a variety of studios.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's definitely a good one to do
Okay.
for 3D. For 2D, I do Flash, or now it's called iAnimate.
Gotcha. Now, because you are also a gamer to a degree, you do get in, you do play. And this is, and yeah, it's something I like to learn too from people. What's your favorite loadout when you're getting into the game? What are you looking to get out there into the field with when you're looting up? What's your ideal loadout?
The guns that I'm best with are absolutely the flatline and the R301, and thermite grenades. I don't use the other grenades. I use thermite grenades because I do like to see the little numbers when they're roasting. So that's
Yeah.
always fun. That's always so rewarding. And I do like the flatline. I think I've learned the pattern of the flatline pretty good. And when I combine the flatline and the 301, that's when I get most of my wins. Believe it or not, it's
Really?
with those two.
It's funny. I'm a close cousin of that. I like the thermite grenades, and I like the M600 Spitfire and the G7 Scout.
The Spitfire is when I just want to go Rambo style and just not worry so much about the ammo or the aiming.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
those tend to work well for me. All right, let's see. Let me see if we can wrap.
Flatline might be my favorite gun in the game.
Yeah. I don't think I can handle a flatline as well as I believe I can. I think in reality I'm not as good with it. It sounds fun, but yeah.
I do love the flatline.
Yeah. CSMC Merck is asking, what's your favorite voice line? This might be for me, but it might be for you. But tell me, do you have a favorite voice line? And no pressure that you're on Pathfinder's stream.
Favorite voice line? Oh my gosh. There are so many. There are so many that are just good. I do remember, I don't know if you saw this cartoon that I did about Pathfinder when he says lots of fun things today.
No, I haven't seen that one.
I don't even know why that line was recorded, but I used it in one of my cartoons, and it was just it's a really funny line from Pathfinder. Most of the lines that come from Bangalore when she kills me throw me in such a rage because she encapsulates that like just putting salt in the wound.
Yes.
When I get killed by a Bangalore, I usually will rage quit because I know the line is coming and I don't want to get further pissed because I know it's gonna rub me the wrong way and deservedly so because she bested me. But those are the lines that probably Bangalore's lines are the ones that get to me in a deeper level. But fun lines, I do love the lines from Pathfinder and Octane probably the most.
Well, it's funny. I've said this often. I hate being killed by Pathfinders. I cannot take it because I know the line is coming, and I know it's my voice taunting me. And I don't rage quit, but I'm always this close to rage quitting when I have to hear that.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which then, let's see. I tell you what, since you do have to get out of here and get to work, what I usually like to do is if I have an actor in here, we do a little ad-lib, and I'll do Pathfinder, and they do whatever character they do. But in your case, you're one of the people who creates these characters. So you've got Pathfinder here. If there's anything you want Pathfinder to say, I am at your disposal, knowing, of course, that Pathfinder doesn't curse.
Sure.
And I will not endorse a product. I'll tell you to watch Tooncraft, though. I'll definitely tell you to watch that. So whatever you want Pathfinder to say, I'm yours.
I've actually been thinking about this, and in one of my cartoons, there's a moment where Pathfinder is offering Wraith. Wraith is super cold. I don't know if you've seen this. Wraith is really, really cold. She's shaking, and Pathfinder comes and offers her a little hot cocoa, right? And she's slurping on it. You know, she's getting warmed up. And then Crypto hacks Pathfinder. So what Pathfinder does is he hits the mug out of her hands, and it breaks on the ground. And then Wraith is super heartbroken, and she just phases out. And Pathfinder doesn't know what happened, right? He just knows that he did this action, but he doesn't know what happened. And now there's this going thread that Wraith is mad at Pathfinder, and when are they gonna make up? And how is Pathfinder gonna apologize? So my request for you is to try to say a sorry to Wraith, but not knowing what happened to you. Like you don't know that Crypto hacked you.
Right.
Just offer your most sincere apologies to Wraith. Like if you were trying to make up with a good friend. You don't know what happened to you yourself. So that's your challenge.
So I've got to make up for smacking a mug of hot chocolate out of her hand. Gotcha.
But you don't know.
But I don't know why I did it.
You desperately want to make up with Wraith because she's your friend. She's your good friend.
Well, this is a challenge right here. Because this isn't...
I've been thinking about this.
Well, you know what? And you'd probably end up using this in your cartoon if I get it right. Okay. So let's see. Pathfinder wouldn't know why he did it, but he's got to make up for it. So, yeah. Okay. He'd start with a little small talk back on the dropship. So, Wraith, that was a really good finisher back there. Thanks for rezzing me. I'm sorry about the hot chocolate. I don't know myself sometimes. I think Mirage got to me. He's still going to be my friend. Will you be my friend now? I said I'm sorry. That's what friends do. Here's a chocolate bar. It's hard for me to knock that out of your hand.
That's awesome. I love it. That's awesome.
Right. Awesome. There you go. It's one of those few times I didn't just go for the obvious joke.
That is awesome. That is so great. And yeah, I might clip that and
clip it. It's yours.
And use it.
It's yours.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that probably violates some sort of SAG-AFTRA rule, but I don't care. No, I don't think it does. Don't worry about it. Use it.
That is so wonderful.
Sir, you are wonderful for taking time out of your day that, frankly, you should be using to work on SBMM. I don't know what you think you're doing here.
I'll get back on fixing the.
Wait till I get to Reddit and tell people that Moy wasted 2 hours of his time.
Right.
Yeah. Folks, we want to say thank you. Now, Ed, here's a chance for you. Is there anything you'd like to say to the Apex community? You've got a few of them here in front of you.
What I would like to say is that the developers, us, we are super passionate about Apex Legends. Needless to say, we are committed to the game, and we are committed to our players. And if you don't get the answer that you're looking for right away, that doesn't mean that it's not being considered or that it's not being taken very seriously. It just takes time to fix a few things or to get a few things right. And that season 5 is going to be super kick-ass, and I can't wait for that.
Yes, it will.
It will.
I know some stuff I just can't tell you guys, but hey, look, the voice actors, we have the easy jobs. These guys have the hard jobs. So be patient. It's going to happen. All right.